Take a look at Nighthaven's latest recruit, Ra, in Rainbow Six Siege. Yes, this Egyptian attacking operator is the very first in this brand new series of operator concepts designed by you, the community. But unlike other concept videos, we're going all the way, designing what the operators look like and going really in depth with their gadget. So right now, I want you to comment your operator ideas, full name, squad, attacking, defending, everything. I want to see what you guys can cook, just like with this one. And if you join my Discord, I have a brand new channel open exclusively for operator concepts. So hit that like button, sub if you haven't already, and let's take a look at Ra. So this entire operator stems from this idea by Underqualified Gunman, where he says, I think it'd be interesting for a new shield op that can catch projectiles, reset the fuse timer, and launch them, making a sort of active use ADS that can be combined with teammates, since this theoretical op wouldn't have any throwables of their own. Okay, so unlike some other concepts, you only gave the gadget idea, so I'm going to start building the operator around this gadget as well, and we'll talk about the gadget in depth because I absolutely love this idea. And we're also going to tweak your concept a little bit and build upon it. And quickly, a major shout out to my friend Utter Filthmate for designing everything you see in this video. You can go drop him a follow on his socials, but he absolutely cooked. So Ra is a Nighthaven operator from Egypt, since we're yet to see an Egyptian operator in Rainbow Six Siege. And since a lot of operator names are derived from mythologies from that country and culture, I decided to do the same here and name him Ra after the Egyptian god of the sun. And let me explain why I would give him this name. So to begin with, it is stated that Ra was the first pharaoh of ancient Egypt. This would be the first Egyptian operator in Rainbow Six Siege. And although there has been Egyptian operators in Rainbow's past, this operator isn't a Rainbow operator, he's a Nighthaven agent, so technically he would be the first Egyptian agent. As well as this, his gadget, which would be implemented into the shield itself, could be known as the Eye of Ra, since it represents a protective and sometimes vengeful aspect of the deity itself. And comparing that symbolism to what the gadget does, it would make a lot of sense, since this would be an attacking shield, which is sort of a mix of Wamai and Brava, with the shield having a similar effect to Wamai's gadget, where it would now catch defender projectiles, and the Brava side of this would be the fact that when it is caught, it hacks the gadget, turning it into a friendly one for Ra to use, and then he can throw back at any point during the match. This is why I wanted to make him a Nighthaven operator, since the tech would already exist for Wamai, so this could technically be something that Nighthaven's QCR department could very realistically create for a new operator, or in Nighthaven's case, they're known as agents. Now let's talk about Nighthaven for a second, especially with the visual design of this operator, because we went through a bunch of different iterations before getting to this point. Now Ra's design is heavily based on the Nighthaven soldiers, which we could see in the Operation Vector Glare comic book. This is a design which myself and many other people loved because, unlike a lot of the other Nighthaven operators in my opinion, this actually looked like a realistic uniform which all these soldiers should be wearing. Rather than Ella walking around in leggings, for example, I would expect her to be wearing this Nighthaven uniform. So this really cool grounded Nighthaven design is what we ran with when designing Ra. Utter Filthmate took some creative liberty as well to make the operator still his unique self whilst also looking like this Nighthaven soldier by having the top part of his head exposed and his sleeves rolled up to expose his forearms, as well as changing the color of his trousers to meet that nice Rainbow Six Siege middle ground of every operator has to look unique, but this one is still keeping those grounded aspects of that Nighthaven soldier design, especially with the goggles on his head. I think visually, Utter Filthmate hit that perfect middle ground between generic soldier and unique operator with this design, which I think is absolutely stellar and perfect. I also designed the operator icon, and I wanted to mix the mythology alongside the tech of Nighthaven. So because Ra is depicted as a falcon, I wanted to make it look like a bird's face whilst also implementing those blue goggles in which Ra and these Nighthaven soldiers wear. I was a bit scared that we were creeping a bit too close to Kali with this icon design, but I think they both stand out amongst each other and are close but far enough to be distinguishable. Now let's start to take a look at his loadout before we take a look at his gadget in depth. So to begin with, he will be a 2-speed, 2-armor operator. I always think that is just a nice middle ground, especially for a brand new operator being added. I feel like you can't really go wrong with a 2-2. Of course, his primary weapon would be the shield itself. He isn't going to be like Blackbeard and have like an assault rifle that he can use through the shield. No, this is going to be like any other shield operator with only having the shield as a primary. And this will be known as the EOR Shield, which stands for the Eye of Ra. And for his secondary weapons, he will have the RG-15 pistol, which is the same pistol which Ella, Zofia, and Melusi currently have in game. Now, the reason why I opted for this pistol is, one, I think it's just pretty cool to share the pistol alongside another one of his Nighthaven agents, which is Ella. And two, this is one of the pistols in the game which has a reticle on it. It has the reflex sight when other pistols do not. So this would make Ra the only shield operator who has a pistol which actually has a scope on it. So I think that just introduces something quite cool and unique to him, which sets him apart from other shield operators who have more of an aggressive shield type gadget. I just think the RJ-15 would be really fun on Ra. For secondary gadgets, we have went for some simple ones, which is just the Claymore and the smoke grenade. The reason for this is if he's already going to have the capability of catching nitro cells, for example, like we'll talk about in the gadget section, then I don't really see the point in giving him grenades, for example. I think that would be overkill and kind of plays against what his gadget is meant to do. So going for the more simple gadgets of a smoke grenade and Claymore, I think that just suits Ra's kit very well when you understand what his gadget actually does. So yes, let's actually look at his gadget in a gameplay aspect. So when Ra's shield is up, any defending projectile which is thrown at him will be captured, and he'll have a maximum of 3 different opportunities to do this. If you've already captured and used 3 of their gadgets, it runs out, he can't do any more. So I think a very common one, which a lot of people will think of, is a nitro cell. If a nitro cell is thrown near Ra's shield, the shield will activate, drag the nitro cell towards his shield, just like Wamai's magnet, and just like Wamai, since this is the same tech, the Eye of Ra will reset the fuse timer. Then the sort of Brava hacking effect comes into play, where the nitro cell is then hacked, turned into an attacking nitro cell, and then the Eye of Ra holds onto that nitro cell until Ra wants to deploy it and detonate it. Now, Ra can only hold onto one gadget at once. If he already has a nitro cell he's holding onto, for example, and another one is thrown, it will not capture both of them. He has to have an empty shield if he wants to capture something else. But not only will this work for nitro cells, it can work for Smoke's canister, for example. Smoke throws his canister, Ra's shield catches it, turns it into a friendly one, and can launch it back at them at any point. You'd of course have a cool little interaction when throwing the smoke canister back at the defense, because once you detonate it, of course, it will start to choke any defender, like it already does if a friendly walks into a smoke canister, but Smoke will obviously still be immune to it, as will Scopos. So although you are catching Smoke's canister and launching it back at him, it won't have any effect on him, but it still will have an effect on his teammates and your teammates. Keep that in mind. But not only would this catch projectiles such as nitro cells and smoke canisters, it would also catch any throwable gadget which is thrown in his radius. So that means if there is a situation where, let's say that Ra is in the radius of a Kaid who just threw his electric claw, the Eye of Ra can then grab the electric claw, and now since when Brava hacks an electric claw, she doesn't, turn it friendly, she just destroys it, the Eye of Ra would then just destroy it as well. But this wouldn't be the case for all gadgets. If the Eye of Ra, for example, would catch Wamai's magnet, which in gadget terms would probably be his brother if we're being honest, the Eye of Ra can then shoot out that magnet wherever he wants, and it will be a hacked version similar to when Brava hacks it, meaning it will also then catch defender utility as well. Now here is the really cool part, which the original person who came up with this concept didn't say, but it's something I want to add on because I think it'd be really cool. If you are in the radius of an already placed gadget, using the activation on the EOR Shield, it will grab an already placed projectile from its position, drag it to the shield, and then do its hacking process, and then put it in the situation where Ra can then throw it himself. They don't just have to be thrown at him, he can grab them off walls. So what I mean by this is, let's say that Ra drones out a room and sees that there is a Fenrir dread mine on the roof. Ra then walks in, activates his gadget, drags the dread mine down from the roof, hacks it, turns it into an attacking dread mine, and then shoots it at the other side of the room, or keeps it in his pocket for further use. And then once a defender walks into the version of the dread mine which the Eye of Ra has then caught and shot out, the defender would then trigger the dread mine and be blinded by it, just like if it was hacked by Brava. This is where we really start to introduce a bunch of really cool things, because Ra could walk up a staircase, see a Razor Bloom for example, use the Eye of Ra to grab the Razor Bloom, pocket it inside of his shield, your teammates then go for a plant, the Eye of Ra shoots out the Razor Bloom by the diffuser, and then you are now using that Razor Bloom to stop the defense from disabling your active diffuser. Tell me we are not cooking right now. And of course, this would be limited to projectiles which have to be thrown. If you're trying to use the Eye of Ra on a Capcan trap, for example, it won't really work because that Capcan trap can't be thrown back. It has to be a projectile which is thrown. And this would still keep Brava relevant as utilities such as Capcan and Melusi, which aren't projectiles, therefore Ra cannot capture them and cannot hack them, but Brava's Clutch Drone can. So it still keeps Ra and Brava separate, although they are quite similar, but they can still coexist. So theoretically, a goo mine could be thrown, but you can't hack a goo mine, so there wouldn't really be much usage in doing that. But if it's throwable, you can do it. So an Electric Claw, a Razor Bloom, Proximity Alarm, Fenrir Dread Mine, a Mozzie Pest, Nitro Cell, Smoke Canister, Impact Grenade, a Valkyrie Black Eye Camera. You could capture one of them, shoot it out, and you have a hacked Valk camera which you can place anywhere. That would be a really cool one. One of Eller's Gersmont mines, you could capture one of them, throw it at an enemy and concuss them. And something that could be quite cool would actually be Tachanka. You could capture one of his Shamiko launcher rounds and throw the fire back at the enemy. You could counter Azami as well. If she throws a Kiba barrier in your area, you can grab it and use it for yourself to place it anywhere you want and give your team cover. Of course, if it's a gadget which doesn't need to be hacked and already has a universal effect, so like I'm saying, a goo mine which can't be hacked, but you can still throw it elsewhere, I guess. Or like an impact grenade, for example. You don't need to hack the impact grenade, you can just throw it back at them because an impact grenade damages anyone regardless of what team throws it, if that makes sense. So Akiba barrier is the same way. Although you can't hack her knife, for example, it doesn't matter. As long as you're projecting it into a different direction and it hits the surface, it will then deploy. Another one could be Alibi. You pick up an already existing Prisma, place it back down, and now it's a hacked one. And something that could be really cool to come to him and Brava would be if Brava and Ra hack a Prisma, make the Prisma look like them. So if Brava hacks it, make the Prisma look like Brava, and if Ra hacks it, make the Prisma look like Ra, because then defenders are going to start shooting the Prismas. And if Mozzie hacks Brava's Clutch Drone, which hacks an already hacked Alibi Prisma, make it look like Mozzie. Also, comment if you think I've missed any operators. Of course, he would then also affect any defender which gets added in the future that introduces a new projectile to the game. I think this perfectly captures the idea of having an attacking version of Jaeger, basically, because that's been a talking point since the games pretty much came out, of how would you implement an ADS on attack. And I think Ra and the Eye of Ra is a really cool way to do that, because not only are you using already existing tech in the game with Wamai's gadget and Brava's capability to hack, it would also lead to so many really cool interactions. Now, let's start talking about some counters to Ra, because of course there would be a bunch. You'd firstly have just shield counters in general. Meleeing the shield would obviously guard break him, making him exposed. Orcs can tackle him. The same thing you can do to any shield operator, you could do to Ra and his shield. There would be two really cool counters to him as well, which would be Mute and Tubarao. And these would work in two different ways depending on what level of the process the Eye of Ra has gotten to. So for example, if Ra is in the radius of a Zoto canister by Tubarao or a Mute Jammer by Mute, and he has nothing in his shield and he is waiting to catch a Nitro Cell, for example, his gadget will simply not work since it is disabled by the Zoto canister or Mute Jammer, and the Nitro Cell will just land on the floor. Of course, if the Nitro Cell is frozen, the defender also won't be able to detonate it, but if it's in the radius of a Mute Jammer, the defender can blow it up, kill Ra, kill any other attackers by it. The Eye of Ra will not work if it is muted or frozen. So that's the first way it will work. It will not be able to catch anything if it is frozen or muted. The next part is for scenarios if the Eye of Ra has already captured and hacked a gadget. So since that gadget has already been hacked and transferred to being an attacker gadget, and is already in Ra's pocket and has happened way before he stood in the Mute Jammer or Tubarao, he will still have that gadget in his supply, or the Eye of Ra will still be holding that gadget, but he simply cannot deploy it until he is no longer muted or frozen. So that is how both Mute and Tubarão would counter Ra, depending if he's already captured a gadget or if he hasn't. And there would also be more counters, which I imagine people have already forgotten, and that would simply just be Wamai and Jaeger. Okay, let's say that Ra captures a nitro cell, hacks it, and turns it into his own. He then goes to throw that nitro cell back, but there's a Jaeger ADS. The Jaeger ADS will simply just zap and destroy the nitro cell. Same case with the Wamai disc as well. If Ra hasn't hacked this disc and it's still a defender Wamai disc, and let's say Ra has a nitro cell once again, or a smoke canister, and then the eye of Ra deploys it, well, the magnet will simply just capture it and do the usual thing which a magnet does. I know that may sound confusing, but this is already a mechanic which exists in-game right now with Brava. If Brava hacks a magnet or an ADS, they capture defender utility instead. So a Wamai magnet capturing a nitro cell is already a thing in the game, it just has to be hacked by Brava. So this would sort of be like a bit of an inverse of that, because instead of the magnet being hacked, the nitro cell is hacked, but similar to the case when you Brava hack it, they are now on separate sides. It's just, in this case, the nitro cell is going to the attacking team, whereas in Brava's case, the magnet is going to the attacking team, if that makes sense. So genuinely, all the groundwork for an operator like Ra to be added to the game is kind of already in place. You have all the hacking mechanics with Brava, you have all the interactions between a hacked gadget with an ADS and everything with Brava already existing. The gameplay mechanic of the Eye of Ra would just work very similar to one of Wamai's magnets. Shields themselves also got a rework, and as of Operation Collision Point, I think they are pretty balanced. Blackbeard is currently the most banned attacker, but I think that's more because he is an entry fragger, and it's a bit of a shock reaction from the community, because we've not had an entry fragger in so long. So when you have an operator who technically plays the same role as Ash, I'm not surprised that people are banning him. But I think shields are in a good spot, and I wouldn't be against getting another shield on the team. I know that may be a concern for people, which I think is valid, but I think adding another shield to the attacking side, which has a gadget as cool and unique and interesting as this, would be a really good thing. So yeah, that is the concept for the new Egyptian Nighthaven operator, Ra. This is the first in a new series of operator concepts, so if you have your own operator concepts, drop them in the comments or my Discord. I want to see full names, squads, everything. I think this could be really fun. And I just want to do some credits, so thank you to Underqualified Gunman for giving us this initial concept which allowed me to jump off of and go more in depth with and everything. You jump-started this conversation, which allowed me to develop it even more. I of course want to thank Utter Filthmate for all the illustrations and artwork he done for this video and for Ra. If it wasn't for him, Ra would simply just exist as text, and we would never get this insanely good visualization of what the operator could be. Although he is only a concept, he already feels like a real existing character thanks to this amazing artwork. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, this video would not have turned out as well as it did. I truly cannot thank him enough. And I would also like to thank 2 subscribers, Octana and Judge, for helping me in the custom games get some clips. Everyone will be linked in the description. I highly recommend checking everyone out. And of course, I want to thank you for watching. So if you did enjoy, hit that like button, drop a comment, let me know what your operator concepts are and your thoughts on this one. Hit that sub button for more Rainbow Six content. Have a great rest of your day. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.